ironically, the first two picks back-to-back for the Cleveland Browns. You have an Ohio State Buckeye and a Michigan Wolverine. In the third round, pick number 85, the Browns selected offensive guard. He played right guard at Michigan, just for context. Zak Zinter, 6 foot, 309-pound guard out of the University of Michigan. Tristan, I will let you go first. What was your thoughts? What do you think about this one?
Yeah, by far my favorite pick in the draft, without a shadow of a doubt. Zak Zinter, right, before his injury, people were kind of expecting him to be like a kind of round one, round two tweener guy, right? And, he got his injury and he slid. And for me, the thing that most impresses me about Zak Zinter, right? So, first things first, over his 4-year career at Michigan, right, only given up 3 sacks. That tells you a lot. In his senior year, he didn't give up any. Okay, so it shows you he's getting better year after year after year. The thing that most excites me about Zak Zinter is his ability to sense pressure. And we usually talk about that in terms of quarterbacks, their ability to know where pressure's coming, how to maneuver in the pocket. Zak Zinter is fantastic at, and you see this on his film pop up time and time again, is he's doing one thing, but his head is another direction, looking for something else. Right? Like oftentimes he's got his center and then he's staring at his right tackle to make sure, all right, that guy that's on my right tackle, he's not cutting back inside. Oh, he's cutting back inside. Let me go kill him, right? Like this guy's eyes are amazing along the O-line. He is super super good at picking up and helping in the pass game. There's a little bit of concern with him in the run game just because I think he's a little bit too upright. If you're going to be very critical on him, like he doesn't get low enough. Like he's a little bit too high out there, you know what I'm saying? Like posture wise, but when we look at the things that are not coachable, like that sense of where to be is something that, in my opinion, defined in the third round is incredible. I think that this is going to be the guy that next year starts at right guard. We've been talking about it a lot about, hey, this might be the last year for Wyatt Teller just because of his contract situation. And how are the Browns going to be able to afford him and extend these guys? And, I think that Zinter, is the starter at right guard next year. There's a lot to love there. And the thought of having him next to DeJuan Jones on the right, that's a very, very good pass protecting right side. And I'm very pleased with that. I'll see how he pans out and how he develops. But to get him in the third round, what he is now, I think you could arguably throw him in and start him this year. And I think he could hold his own. Like, I don't think that he would necessarily be a world beater like what DeJuan did last year. But he would definitely hold his own. I think he's a very, very talented guard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I honestly, I know it's the whole like Ohio State Michigan thing. I'm thrilled with this pick for multiple reasons. A, the dude is a leader. He is a locker room leader. That is the one thing. And Joe Klatt said this. And ironically, Ohio State, Michigan, that's the game he got hurt. Michael Ho Jr. was the one who ended up getting shoved into him. So it's kind of funny how things work out that they're on the same team now as teammates. But, Zak Zinter is a guy who was a captain. He was a leader. When he did get hurt, which he broke his tibia and fibia in November against Ohio State, that whole stadium, the Ohio State sideline even, chanting his name, wanting nothing for the best for him, because he is a leader. He's a dude. And not only are the Browns getting a great locker room presence, they're getting a fantastic player. You mentioned it. 0 sacks his last year on 287 pass blocks. The dude was the best Michigan offensive lineman on Michigan teams that were fantastic up front. You cannot say enough about that. He is 23 years old. I don't know if I mentioned it already, but 6'6", 309 pounds. His size and strength is immaculate for what you want for an offensive guard in the NFL. And I couldn't agree with you more. I think he's going to be the starting right guard for the future. I think Wyatt Teller will be on his way out more than likely. And I think Zinter's a guy who could be here for the long run. I know the Browns have a lot of contracts to try to figure out, and we're talking way in the future, right? We're talking way, way in the future. But just the presence that he brings, the impact that I think he's going to bring, I can see him being a cornerstone for this team for a long time. And it's kind of ironic because, Tristan, when you look at it and kind of break it down, at least in my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think the center to the right tackle position is set for the Browns for the future. I think it's Luke Whippler, I think it's Zinter, and then I think it's DeJuan Jones. And, for the Browns to get that figured out and all set out is pretty great. Because Joel is older. I understand that. He's not going to play football forever. We had the same thing with Joe Thomas. It's like, you hope these guys can be here forever. You can't stop Father Time. But for the time being, I think this offensive line is in a really, really, really good spot. And the one thing is, he's not the most athletic tackle in the world, but he's not afraid to get to that next level and lay out a linebacker. He is mean. He's a bully. That's what you want. I think Zak Zinter is everything that you want in an offensive lineman. Like, the only negative that I can really say is how is he going to come back from this injury? That's the only question mark. Because aside from that, I have no doubt that this guy is going to be a good player for the Browns. Because look at what he was going up against. He played 4 or 5 years at Michigan, and
It was 4 years.
Okay,
yeah.
4 years. So, those were good teams, right? And you wonder why they were good teams. But point being, they ran the ball. They were aggressive and mean up front. And, he was the leader of that ship. And to get a guy like that on the Browns, I am excited. I'm very excited. I wish Callahan was still around to have a guy like this coach up. But nevertheless, I'm pumped. He announced he's wearing number 70, which is a great number for an offensive guard. So there's another sign he's going to be good. But just all in all, I think these two first picks for the Browns, however the rest shake out, we'll talk about it. But I think these first two, the Browns got good long-term starters, which in the second, third round, that's a really good thing. That's a really, really good thing. So
Yeah. The last couple things I was going to say about Zach, right? So there was one play versus Ohio State, like kind of to reiterate my what I was talking about with his vision. There was one play against Ohio State. It was on a touchdown throw. I can't remember who I saw breaking this down for the life of me, but essentially the right tackle was getting beat to the inside, and Zach, again, he had his hands on the center, right? Saw that his right tackle was getting beat to the inside. He comes back, he sets the block, right? And JJ McCarthy steps up into the open space and throws the touchdown, right? And that kind of just shows like why that is so valuable and why that's so important. And for him to have that at a college level and have that impact at that college level like that's huge. And the other thing is, he is going to have the perfect situation to develop. Really, I mean, the ability to sit behind Joel Bitonio and Wyatt Teller and learn from those guys, like, that's an incredible situation. And I think that he, this time next year, is going to be ready to go. I think if we have any issues at the right guard spot, injury-wise, I think he'll be ready to go. He'll plug in, and I think he'll be okay. Yeah, I'm really excited to see what he can turn into, because I think if he's able to build off of what he did in college, he'll be a good pro. He'll be a very good pro. And when I see him running these zone schemes, the way he kind of runs does kind of remind me a little bit of Joel. Just running around like kind of a little stiff and like waddling over there. It's funny, but not the most athletic, but he's got everything else that you want.
Yeah, absolutely.